Hello, welcome to another vlog, a video diary of August 2017. Sunny intervals kind of day at the moment. Not unusually for Britain. I've got a few notes here, which I've scribbled on my little notebook. I'm going to talk about where will we find alien life, and Enlightenment, and escaping the Matrix and stuff like that, really. But first, I have an Elgato HD Pro video card, or video capture card. You can hear it above all the noise. Let me take it out of the box. There we go. It's only small, but hopefully this will make the gameplay a bit better, because it can capture video at 60 frames a second at 1080p. So I'm hoping that the games will be less stop-start after I've installed it. I'm hoping to install it this weekend. But it does kind of involve my tidying my desk, because I'm going to have to put a second monitor on my computer, because my monitor is not 1080p. It's 1920 by 1200, and the card requires full screen recording. So I've got a 1920 by 1080 monitor as well, but I'll have to fit that on my desk somehow, which means tidying it up. It's a bit of a daunting task, really. I mean, I've left it for the last few years. I suppose I'd better do it, I suppose. To me, I sound like I have a sore throat. I don't think I have a sore throat, but there you go. Okay, so where will we find alien life? First of all, let's start with the basics. Primitive life. Something like simple replicators, or single-celled style beings. I think clearly there's good odds within the solar system in places like Europa, Titan, Enceladus, or is it Enceladus if you like a posh Latin, I don't know. Some of these moons seems pretty likely. But actually I think there's a place even more likely, and that is on the Earth itself. I don't know if they'll count as aliens if they're found on the Earth, but it is the place I think we are most likely to find life which is not part of the tree of life that we're a part of. In other words, some independently formed life. Maybe it arrived from space and is thriving in some hidden environments here and there, but our own life probably arrived from space too, or at least the building blocks certainly did. The thing is, we're not looking for alien life. For example, we're not really hunting for life that breathes iron, as some bacteria has been found that does, or that breathes, or that lives on silicon, or you know, other non-hydrocarbon based life forms, basically, is what I'm talking about with alien life. We're not really exploring the Earth with a view to finding those. I believe some biologists are starting to consider it as a possibility, but at the moment the biology experiments wouldn't even detect them, because they're not looking for that kind of chemistry. So I think there's a fair old chance that we'll find other types of life on Earth before we find it elsewhere. We've already found, as I say, strange iron-breathing bacteria and things that live in rock and stuff. It seems very strange. How do they move? But maybe they don't. I don't know. The other thing, the big question though, is what about intelligent life? As you know from my rare Earth hypothesis video, it looks like, certainly to me, it looks like the odds are that we are the only intelligent life in the entire universe, or one of very few. There might be a dozen, I don't know. So if we're looking out into space... Do I have a sore throat? I don't know. No. Not yet, anyway. Maybe I'll take a Strepsil later, just in case. Looking out into space, it's going to be not much luck, basically, I think. Even if we do discover something out there, how will we communicate with it? I mean, if it's 1,000 light years away, you're not going to be able to... It's going to be pointless sending radio signals. There might not be any civilization around here to collect the reply in 2,000 years' time. And what's it going to be anyway? So again, I think actually we're likely to find alien life in a rather weird way. And we won't even think of it as alien life necessarily. That is, in psychic phenomena and the spirit world. These are aliens too, I guess, the ones that are not derived from dead humans, I suppose. Now, first of all, do they even exist? Science says no. Although strictly, science has not done enough research into the subject to know that. It's just not compatible with the current scientific paradigm. Life after death is not compatible because obviously, if your brain is generating your mind, and your brain dissolves when you die, then there ain't nobody to live on, right? But of course, as I've mentioned in other videos, science does not have any clue about consciousness. And frankly, there's more than one theory about how the brain works as well. The current paradigm is that the brain generates consciousness, not known how, but it must be, because how else? However, there is a how else, which is the brain as a filter, and consciousness exists in the universe at large or beyond space and time, and in the nether regions, wherever that is, and our brain is like a filter and allows some of it through. And there are phenomena which are consistent with this theory too. In fact, all the phenomena are consistent with it, but some actually fit it better than with the standard paradigm, like the fact that people become mentally clear shortly before they die sometimes, and yet autopsies show that their brains are destroyed by Alzheimer's and what have you. So that shouldn't even be possible with the brain generating hypothesis. Whereas a brain filter hypothesis might be a bit more compatible with it. The brain prevents too much consciousness coming through rather than generating it. In which case, when the brain is breaking down, you might get sometimes better transmission. Don't know. It's a possibility, but given that there are strange phenomena without a decent explanation under the current paradigm, other than saying it's fake, fraud, mistake, delusion, these do apply to many cases, I'm sure. But I'm not convinced that it's the real solution to the more difficult cases. And therefore, aliens, if they're in another galaxy, like, I don't know, 10 billion light years away. Now, we wouldn't even know about them for 10 billion years, and of course we won't even be around in 10 billion years, probably. So, how would they communicate with us here and now? They can't send information faster than light because of relativity. However, quantum mechanics does permit some signalling at instantaneous speeds, but not the transmission of information, it seems. So it may be that it's just impossible to communicate with distant aliens, if there are any, and I don't think there are many. If I had to guess, I'd say there might be a dozen in the entire universe, the entire observable universe, including ourselves, at any one time, so like now. But if there are things outside the known reality, like consciousness, then there might be some form of telepathy. I mean, they wouldn't be able to communicate with us by technological means anyway, because we don't have the advanced technology to do this sort of thing. So they would have to use something like telepathy, if such a thing exists, right, to communicate with us at all. And this is consistent with the experiences people have, or people claim they have, let's put it that way. So, can it be ruled out? Science is very anti it, of course, and I'm a scientist of type. I'm the scientific type. I really want proper evidence, but I'm not prepared to just rule it out because it sounds like nonsense. Unless it really does sound like nonsense, of course. This doesn't sound totally like nonsense to me. It sounds like a hypothesis that can be tested. And has been. And the tests show to my satisfaction that there is something. Another possibility is parallel universes, that the aliens are not distant, they're nearby in a parallel universe, on a parallel Earth, for example, and there you wouldn't have to violate the speed of light to get across a message in real time. So that's a possibility. With infinite parallel universes, there will be infinite aliens adjacent to us, and infinite other humans, presumably, on infinite Earths. And maybe there are dark matter creatures and I don't know what. There's a lot that we haven't discovered. So I think that the odds are, if we find alien intelligences at all, they will be in what we would now refer to as the spirit realm, or parallel universes, or something of that sort. In other words, we'll find them right here at home, basically. How's that for a conjecture? Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, next thing was Enlightenment. I wanted to talk about Enlightenment a bit, because in a way this channel is about Enlightenment and escaping the Matrix, which is kind of an Enlightenment, I suppose, is another way of doing it. If you're enlightened, you don't care what. Never mind the Matrix. Who cares? I'm enlightened. One of the things you're supposed to achieve when practicing meditation to achieve enlightenment, whatever enlightenment actually is, it's kind of some sort of inner freedom, being yourself, totally, I think. There are as many descriptions of it as there are descriptors, I think, or describing people, and some of them don't know what they're talking about, including me, possibly. Some of them talk about enlightened people as if they have magical powers. I don't believe it. But inner freedom, I think, is a good thing. less stress, basically. Let's have a relaxed life instead of a stressful one. But one of the things is that the key practice is to silence your verbal mind, so that you can learn to observe how it works. Because when you try and silence it, like meditating, it starts up again, babbling away about rubbish, as you quickly learn. So keep doing it and learn what rubbish it talks, and then eventually you can unidentify with it or disidentify with it, so that maybe it can babble on but you're not listening. Doesn't matter. I'm not there, but I can quieten it down quite a lot. But the thing is, if you've got, like, if your mind is going round and round in circles and thinking about some problem that you've got in your life, something, or some plans you're going to make, or some thing that's happened, then by silencing the mind and going towards enlightenment, aren't you just avoiding the issues? Isn't it just avoidance? I was pondering that this week. Because, you know, if you've got some problem, whatever it may be, I don't know, difficulty in your job, girlfriend's left you, or I don't know, you've been mugged and you're upset, whatever. Your plans for your life are not working out, or they are working out and you're just busy. If you're going silence, whatever, then you're just avoiding your problems, no? Well, yes and no. I think avoiding your problems actually can be good tactics sometimes. Let's face it. If your mind is going around and driving you balmy, as it does sometimes, you just go round and round, can't get this issue out of your head, then silencing it is actually a good thing, because if the thoughts are not getting you anywhere, they're a waste of time. And in fact they are just a kind of fantasizing and self-torture, winding you up. For no good reason. You see, most insights that we get on things don't come about strictly because we are thinking about it with the verbal mind. The insights come from deeper. You have an idea, it pops up out of nowhere. From the subliminal mind, the subconscious, whatever you want to call it. That is chugging away underneath. And when it comes up with a new idea, it'll pop it up into consciousness, and then it's constructive to think about it. Or what you might find is, after you've left a topic for a time, you've been quiet for a while, or you've been distracted by other things, you come back to it. After a few seconds, then you get the idea, the insight, because it's been prepared subconsciously, and it pops up when you're ready. So, consciously going around and around and around in circles is not any use. And it's harmful, because it stresses you, shortens your life. So it's okay to silence those kinds of thoughts. And a lot of those thoughts, as I mentioned, are actually just a form of fantasizing. It's really a mental adventure. You're not really intent on solving the problem when you're having those kinds of thoughts. You're just daydreaming about it, which the verbal mind loves to do, and sometimes daydreaming is beneficial, but the mind is a new thing in evolution, and I think we humans have not learned how to use it properly, for the most part. And training it with silence is really, really effective at cutting the stress levels. And it doesn't affect your ability to make plans or to resolve issues. If anything, it enhances it, because it cuts down on the useless fantasizing. It gives space for your subconscious to pop up new ideas. So, yes, avoidance is useful sometimes, and it's not the whole story. It's making space for new ideas. There's no point in thinking about the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, I go into McDonald's to order my burger, and I catch myself going over how am I going to phrase, Big Mac on its own, just so that they know not to ask me whether I want regular or large, or do I want fries with that when I've already said on its own, They just don't listen. They're not trained to listen in there, Anyway. Or it's too noisy anyway. They can't hear you half the time. So it's a waste of time, these kinds of thoughts. So do it once, make your plan, do it, get on with it. What the heck, right? And you can do that a lot in your life. Just fret, or what the heck. Just do it or don't. It actually makes little difference, and it's a lot better for you. Your brain learns without needing to use the verbal mind. Except when you're learning verbal stuff, I suppose. The verbal mind's good for logic, it's good for certain step-by-step procedures, planning, but it's not the only bit of your brain. It's a small bit, indeed. So, teach it to be quiet. Yes, avoid things, but think about them when you have new insights. And that's I think, is the way forward for that. I know an issue some people have with it is that if you're living in the present moment, because your mind is not thinking stuff, okay? So you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking about the past, therefore you're here and now and just experiencing what is right now, with no problems right now, because they're usually, most of the time, they've either passed or they haven't happened yet. So they're right now. Supposing, I don't know, you've been sacked, or your girlfriend's left you, or your boyfriend's left you, or whatever, and that happened in the past. Right now, you're okay. In a sense. You still maybe have to work out these issues, but going round and around and around in circles and torturing yourself over them doesn't get you anywhere, right? So learn the silence and relax. And every now and then you can pop back to the subject and have a constructive thought about it, and then leave it again. It's much more efficient. And there's the other thing, you'll be silent and you'll think, am I in the present moment now? Well, you're not if you're thinking that. So how would you know when you're in the present moment then? Well, you know, you don't have to think it, okay? You know, you don't have to think about it. Okay. So, as for escaping the matrix, enlightenment is a way of doing it, in a sense. For me, I want financial freedom as well. The ability to get by without working, and without claiming benefits either. Although helicopter money, universal basic income will be fine. I don't want to be dependent on the state, really. But if I had an income of £500 a month or so, plus, well, accommodation and enough to live on, let's say, then I'd probably still do YouTube, for example. I can't live on it at the moment, but that's the aim. It doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. So I'm going to have to work for a few years. Or win the lottery or something. I don't know. But escaping the matrix, apart from financial freedom, it also means not being fooled by the standard story of society. all the lifestyle adverts and things like that in particular, and all the things we're supposed to believe because it's conventional. Being skeptical of all this helps a lot with mental freedom. Now people do it a bit through conspiracy theorists and stuff like that, and it's a start. But even they are typically selling you something. So it's not really full freedom. And we don't know what's true anyway. We're not in a position to know. The media, as Mark Twain said, if you don't read the papers, you're ill-informed. But if you do read the papers, you're misinformed. And I think it's just important to bear that in mind and develop skepticism, basically. That'll help you be more scientific too, as it happens. Which is good, because science is about what is. And even if what is inconsistent with the current scientific paradigm, which it must be in part because we haven't discovered everything, then, well, you'll be sceptical of it, but you'll accept the proof when it happens. Well, anyway, I don't know, have I spoken nonsense in this video? I don't know. It's a bit of a strange one, isn't it, today, this week? Well, let me know your thoughts. Subscribe if you're not subscribed to my channel and you like these kinds of videos. And I'll see you again in another one, maybe next week. Bye for now.